For over 20 years, the Atlantic Mayors Congress has provided a forum for exchanging ideas and a unified voice for municipal leaders in Atlantic Canada. The Summerside edition has a particular focus on addressing housing and homelessness, with sessions engaging community, provincial, and national perspectives.
Hi, I'm Alan Dale with Gale Force Winds. What an absolute pleasure it is to be here at the Atlantic Mayors Congress in beautiful Summerside, Prince Edward Island. I want to tell you, Summerside's got it all together, and I can't wait to talk to our next guest. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. I'm Greg Gaudet, Director of Municipal Services for the City of Summerside. I've been in the position for about 20 years, but prior to that was an electrical engineer for the utility. And I look after water, sewer, public works, roads, and an electric utility.
Wow. You know, Summerside, we've heard from one of your team members there about the renewable energy footprint, the whole electrical grid. Summerside standing out amongst other municipalities as a real example. Tell me a little bit about the history of how you got from, you know, there to here.
Sure thing. Back in 2005, the council of the time created a strategic plan, which normally would sit on a shelf and maybe gather some dust. But in that was we want to become 100% green in our electric utility. So that set a goal. So staff took it on in passionate ways and started the journey. So we started a journey in 2007. We purchased power for our electric utility from a wind farm being developed on the island. Then we built our own wind farm. Then we built a smart grid to go along with that to try to integrate renewables better into our system. Then from there we went into what we call a Smarter Homes initiative. From there we went into artificial intelligence to try to improve software decision making. And then after that we got into doing the next phase, which was a smart grid storage demonstration with batteries and solar. And then we amped that up on steroids and created Summerside Sunbank on top of that. So today, when we started out with zero renewables locally, we brought that to 62% over the course of, I guess it's going on 18 years now.
Wow. And the vision was just to build resiliency into the city? Is that why, or what was the vision for it?
Well, the vision really was twofold. One was to make sure we had secure, reliable energy locally.
Okay.
Secondly was to make sure we could do the projects at a reasonable cost, so that it might have been higher than what we were paying at the time, but we looked long term and said as the market increases for purchasable energy off the island of Prince Edward Island, then the real issue became you had to buffer yourself from those spikes. And for us, for Summerside, it seems we've made the right decisions at the right time for both not only the environment, but also for the bottom line.
Yeah, and the other side of it too is, right, as we see more sort of environmental disasters, and most recently, you know, hurricane ripped through, knocked out the power on the entire island, Summerside was up a little bit quicker than everybody else, eh?
So that's another story on engineering designs and specifics, is that back in 1960, before my time, there was another engineer by the name of Tom Richardson. He's passed now, but they decided to invest in a more robust cable system and pole system, which was Hendrix aerial spacer. And what that is, it's a tree wire. Basically, trees can fall on it. Unless it breaks down and falls to the ground, it'll still function. Wow. So a lot of that resiliency was built into the built infrastructure of Summerside. And we've just been lucky enough to be able to expand upon that decision.
Yeah, and I mean, here we sit in a beautiful building, and I understand there's a big renewable part to this building as well, right?
Yes, we had an analysis done by a company, Honeywell, and they came in and did a benchmark study against the use per square foot of energy for a facility like this, and all they could find to improve on was LED lighting.
Is that right?
Yeah, a few spots on theatrical lighting. The LED technology had come a long way for dimmables and things like that. They could start using it for that function for the local hockey team, and but everything else was already done when they built the building back in 2008.
Wow, yeah. That's impressive. Summerside's come a great way, great vision. Here we are today. What are you most excited about in the future? What are you guys looking at as a city?
The next thing for us, there's a lot of talk of, well, I'll say clean tech. And clean tech, and that's our presentation later today to the mayors of Atlantic Canada, is how clean tech can be used, and to use it in a way that creates a negative impact to the environment. but it also has to be economic, sustainable, and create jobs and opportunities for the community. They're not always easy to find, so you got to continually hunt for those right partnerships to get those working. For us, the next larger play would be in a renewable generator.
Okay.
So a lot of times the wind doesn't blow, the sun's not out, but yet you need power. So for us, if we can create a renewable fuel that you can dispatch any time of the day, that's our next forward-looking path.
What kind of fuel are you thinking?
Could be green hydrogen, could be ammonia, could be
Okay.
methanol, or it could be ethanol.
I see.
All of those are good choices.
Yeah.
Biodiesel, it reduces. There's also liquid natural gas, but that's about a 40%, 60% reduction in environmental impacts, and then you also have the methane. That's an
Yeah.
issue with those. So
Right.
we're trying to jump past the natural gas foray and look at I'll say a demonstration project, because we're not really large enough for huge scale in Summerside, but we want to be those guys that are, I always say we want to be leaders in clean tech, but we don't want to bleeder in clean tech.
Fair enough. You used earlier when you were describing, what's on the horizon, you used the word opportunity. And let me just expand on that with you a little bit. What opportunities do you see here for the people of Summerside?
Summerside, the next foray for us, the electric utility's gone pretty far with 62% integration of renewables, probably one of the highest except for Quebec with their hydro facilities in the country. So the next step for us should be the built environment. I think for Summerside, I'd be hopefully pushing our decision makers at the end of my career to start looking at build environment. That would be improvements to national building codes, better insulation, better products in the home, and then we're also looking at expanding our Heat for Less Now program, which that program is putting in technology that works with the utility to create benefits for both not only the consumer but also the utility. We don't want solar net metering to take over, because that just erodes the revenue model. We think there's a balance between working with the customer and working with the utility, so they all benefit, but it's also got to benefit the environment.
Right.
So we're looking at batteries in homes, heat storage for heat pumps, because they're popular right at the moment, and those things like that. A regular heat pump doesn't interest us, nor does regular baseboard, because it's uncontrollable.
Right.
We would rather have controllable items in the homes so we can manage that load and match it to renewables.
Right. I got to tell you, a great vision, back then, great management of the city right now and the way it's going, and a great vision for the future. And it's clear that continuity, your longevity with the city, really pays off at the end of the day. That continuity with the program is very important. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much, but I'll put this last plug in. It wouldn't be for the decision makers to allow us to be innovative. So the decision makers at the top start it all rolling with just a few pushes in the right direction.
Yeah.
So the mayors of this Congress hopefully take that away from this conference.
Great.
For over 20 years, the Atlantic Mayors Congress has provided a forum for exchanging ideas and a unified voice for municipal leaders in Atlantic Canada. The Summerside edition has a particular focus on addressing housing and homelessness, with sessions engaging community, provincial, and national perspectives.